Hello fellow data friends, let's talk about private construction. This is a test game as Austria, where about half of my buildings are being constructed by my companies. Not only will they get the throughput bonus, but we will also get this massive 72% construction efficiency. This video is split in two parts. First, we will investigate in detail how the private construction queue chooses what to build, and second, how the owner of a building is chosen. Part 1 will be helpful to make sure that your private construction will build certain buildings, and Part 2 will help us to make sure that many of these buildings belong to our companies. Use the timestamps for your convenience. And now let's go deep into the data mines. The first tool for understanding the private investment is the AI defines file. We mostly need two paragraphs. The first one is for AI buildings in general, including government construction from AI countries. The second part down here is specifically for autonomous construction, which builds on the normal AI building code and tweaks some values. Secondly, we need the debug console. I use the main menu debug toggle mod, which you can find on Steam. There is a console command called AI evaluate autonomous construction. Now we need a building key, let's say a logging camp. Either we press enter right now, then the game chooses a state, usually the capital. Then we get some information in the console. If we want to choose a state, then we repeat the command and add a state underscore name of the state. What do we see here? At the top, we see the total score. A logging camp in Zykov gets 110 points. A logging camp in Ingria gets 728 points. So far more likely. For each building, there is a base value. That is directly set by the developers to nudge the AI a bit. Logging camps have a base value of 1000. Tooling workshops have a base value of 2000. This way, the devs make tools more important for the AI. We will build a list with the main takeaways, and this is the first one. Back to our logging camp. Secondly, the AI looks at profitability, which is a lot better in Ingria than in Zykov. A logging camp in Ingria is predicted to earn 1,170 pounds, which corresponds to the value in the brackets. A logging camp in Zykov is predicted to earn about 390 pounds, which again corresponds to the value in the brackets. The value without the brackets is the actual AI weight. For autonomous construction, profitability gets an extra modifier of 50%. While this looks rather straightforward, it is actually not. This is my Austria game from the start. The tooling workshop in Bohemia is predicted to earn 1,460 pounds. But if we ask the console about the AI weights for a tooling workshop in Bohemia, we get a negative profitability. I have no idea why. But in general, the AI likes buildings which make a lot of money. Not surprising, but let's put that on our list. Then, the AI evaluates the value of the produced goods. That is the amount produced multiplied with the base price multiplied with a modifier. A logging camp in Ingria will produce 42 wood with a base price of 20, so 840 pounds, and 12 hardwood with a base price of 40, so in total 1,320 pounds. That value then gets divided by 4 from the general construction code and then multiplied by 1.25 from the autonomous construction code. Then we get 412 the AI weight for the produced goods. So the AI likes buildings where the total value of output goods in base value is high. The next value is produced modifiers. This is for buildings like railways. These do not only produce goods, but also modifiers like infrastructure or qualifications. Let's check the output. Oh, just railway, not railways. Now we can see a value for produced modifiers. I don't know how the AI values different modifiers. Back to our logging camp. Next up is a penalty for no local production of tools. Tools is an input good with a base price of 40. One level of a logging camp uses 6 tools with 40 base price, so 240 pounds. The game divides this by half, which means 120. But the output only says 100. This means that this part here is ignoring throughput bonuses. Because the base production method only uses 5 tools, so 200 pounds, multiply with 0.5, we get 100. So the AI dislikes buildings without local input, scaling with the cost of the locally missing input. Remember the AI also evaluates the profit of the building, which is already reflecting bad input prices because there's no local input production and because of MAPI. Basically, the AI doubles down here. The same is true for output. There's no local consumption of hardwood, so there's again a debuff. 10 hardwood have a base price of 40, so 400 pounds. Half of that is 200. So AI dislikes building without local consumption. Next up is the price of all output goods. The AI doesn't put a weight on this. So let's look into the game files. The AI will add more weight to this building if the price is above 125% of the base price. Then it will add 25% of the value of the output goods. If the price is below 75%, the AI will lower the weight. Then it will subtract minus 50% of the value of output goods. And when we compare the calculation from the login camp in Ingria with Zykov, the multiplier for the base price is exactly the same, so it is a market price. So AI dislikes cheap output prices a lot and likes expensive market output prices a bit, but this time with a threshold of plus minus 25% of the base price. This does not account for local prices, but again, high or low market prices are also included in the profit of a building. So in a sense, the AI triples down on good prices. But something else is happening for hardwood. The base price is within the plus minus 25% window, but we have a weight of 400. This is because hardwood is an industrial good. Industrial goods get increased weights because they are important. According to the game files, the same holds true for military goods. Then we have investment pool weights, which I think depends on who is contributing to your investment pool. Russia at game starts has a lot of aristocrats, so we get a lower investment pool weight for logging camps. Let's look at a wheat farm. Well, still an investment pool of 0.25. That is unexpected. But there is a paragraph in the game files about this. If more money comes from your industrialists, for example, the private construction will build more industry buildings. So it should work like this, but it is hard to influence in the short term. Then we have a modifier for construction costs. You see, a logging camp gets a better construction modifier than the tooling workshop because it takes more construction points to build a tooling workshop. So we conclude, the AI likes buildings with low construction costs. But the AI also cares about construction efficiency. Let me add road maintenance to Zykov. Now we repeat the command and we get a construction efficiency modifier. So probably that means the AI prefers to build in states with high construction efficiency. To be clear, I don't know how the AI chooses a state. There's some randomness baked into the system on purpose. We have a state random factor for all AI investments, and that gets doubled for autonomous investing. But I have no idea how strong that randomness is. There's also randomness for the actual chosen building. The factor 10 suggests a rather strong randomness compared to the state, but again, I don't know how strong the randomness is. But we conclude, the AI likes construction efficiency. Since we are talking about states, there might be a difference depending on if a state is incorporated or not. In the game files, there are two factors for infrastructure usage. This suggests different preferences for unincorporated states, but I don't know what exactly that means. If we use the debug command for the state Ural, we get the same output. No other factor appears. If you have any idea how these factors work, please leave a comment. So we conclude, the AI might distinguish between unincorporated and incorporated states. Russia has some puppets, so let's ask the debug console about a logging camp in Riga. No other factor appears, but that is probably because it has no effect yet. There is a passage in the game files about foreign versus domestic investment. If foreign investment gets bigger than domestic investment, then the game applies a bias for domestic investment. That will be reset every now and then. So we conclude, if the AI invests too much into foreign countries, the game increases importance of domestic investment. To the next topic, companies. We cannot get a company right now, so let's abuse the console real quick. Research corporate charters, enter. Now we wait some days, and here we go. We can found Samara Metalworks that will do. Now let's evaluate autonomous construction of a tooling workshop in Zykov. Okay, I forgot an S, let me fix that. Here we go. Having an associated company doubles the weight for a building. But remember, this produced goods value will ignore any throughput bonuses. And when we look at profitability, we see that our government construction forecasts £500 in earning. Again, this looks like it is not accounting for any company throughput bonuses. I would guess it is because there's no guarantee that the company will build this building, might be someone else, and then they don't get the throughput bonus. So we conclude the AI likes to build company buildings. But right now, a tooling workshop in Zykov gets minus 400 weight, because there's no local iron supply. Let me cheat again. The fast build command makes construction instantaneous. Now we have a tooling workshop built in Zykov, and I will switch its production method and wait a week. Now we don't use iron. But if you ask the AI again about its evaluation, you still see a negative 400 because of missing local iron. I guess it is because the AI weight system is not talking to the production method system. All the devs wanted to make sure that it takes into account all possible production methods just in case. But also note that there's no negative weight for missing steel or rubber. It might be because we don't have the tag for that, but we can cheat. Let's research vulcanization. And we wait a week. Okay, the AI still does not care about missing rubber. It might use the most common national standards. Let's check that. Okay, now it doesn't check for iron, which is correct, but it doesn't check for steel or rubber either. Now, is it because we don't have any in our market? Let's import some. Okay, now the AI notices it. This begs another interesting question. Is this tag technically involved in any way? Let me reload real quick, so we didn't have any cheated tag. Again, the AI notices the lack for iron for tools. Now we change all tooling workshops to crude tools. Now we ask again. Now the AI doesn't care for iron anymore. So we conclude the AI evaluates a building according to the most common national standard, regardless of the production method in the actual state. Our changes introduce tool shortages into the market. AI government construction gets a big modifier to combat shortages and don't increase them. The private construction AI does not get such a big modifier explicitly for shortages, but the base price of tools is above 120%, so they get a lot more weight. Private construction does not care about qualifications. Another logging camp would need 500 machinists, but our state only has potential for 300. Still, there's nothing regarding qualifications. There is a line in the game files for that, but look at the developer comment at the end. Disabled for now. So we conclude, the AI does not care about qualifications, but it might in future patches. The game files also contain lines about infrastructure and lack of workforce, but let's look at this state. They have 17 infrastructure of 15, but the weights don't show any reflection of that. That must be included in a different part of the system. Here are 3 lines about infrastructure. These are from the general AI building parts, but I deem it likely that the private construction uses them as well. But also pay attention to this line. The AI will build even with lacking workforce, as long as there's still more than 5 infrastructure available. There's also a line for no available workforce from government construction, but you can notice just from playing that the private construction will stop building if there's not enough workforce. There's also a line about privatization, a 50% chance for the AI to do privatization instead of building a new level when evaluating an existing building. For me, this sounds like the AI first checks what and where it wants to build. If it wants to expand an existing building, there's a 50% chance that it will privatize instead, if possible. Now we know what and where the AI is likely to build, but who is going to own it? The building type will mostly determine if it can be owned by a manor house, a financial district, or a company headquarter. But there are many financial districts or manor houses, and often they will compete with your companies. All possible owners get a score. The base score is 1 to make sure all possible owners have a score. And then the location matters a lot. For each 10,000 population in a state, an owner in that state gets +1 score. So that an owner will be located in Slavonian is way less likely than in central Hungary in my case. But also state GDP matters. For each 100,000 yearly GDP, this value, an owner in that state gets +1 score. So Central Hungary gets +12 score for GDP, but my Bohemia gets plus 103 score. So you want your company headquarter to be in a state with a high population and a lot of GDP. You will likely build a big industry hub like I did in Bohemia. Place your company headquarters there. You can see the headquarters location of a company here, and you can influence it. It will be the location of its first 5 buildings. Next, if a state already has an owner building, the score gets doubled. This is here because a state without a financial district, like Dalmatien here, also has a chance to spawn a new financial district. Existing ones are just more likely to own even more buildings. Next, the score for owner buildings in the capital gets doubled. This makes headquarters in your capital always a decent choice, but your capital will not always be your biggest industrial hub. Austria, for example, doesn't have iron, but it's always a decent default location. Next, the score for owner buildings in states, which are not homelands for any primary cultures, are reduced by 50%. Austria has South German as a primary culture, so all other states have a lower chance. So try to make sure your headquarters are in a homeland state. Next, the score for an owner gets reduced to 25% if the state of the owner has less GDP than the state of the building. This means, again, you want your company headquarters in your industrial hubs. Say if I spawn my headquarter in Dalmatien, then the company get minus 75% score for buildings in nearly all other states. So they will barely own anything. Next, if a state has no available workforce, no available infrastructure, or is unincorporated, owners in the state get massive penalties. Try to avoid that. The next parts are company specific. If you have a company, the ownership score for a new construction of the corresponding building type is tripled. For privatization, the score for the company gets multiplied by 7. So companies get a big boost to owning their associated buildings. The next lines are big ones. It took me a while to figure them out, but they are massive. If a company owns less than 10 buildings in its own headquarters state, then the company score for any buildings in other states get reduced to 5%. A new company spawns with 5 buildings, so they get this big debuff. You need to hand feed them 5 more levels in their headquarters state, or your company will lose 95% score for almost all states. That is probably the single biggest advice to jumpstart your company. There's another big break once your company reaches 100 buildings in your own country. A company below 100 buildings in your country will get minus 95% score for all foreign investments. So keep that in mind when you are expanding into new markets. That was a lot of information, but it should help you a lot for getting the most out of your companies. If you want to know how you control the actual battle location on your front lines, click on the top video. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you haven't yet, please leave a like. I see you on the next one.